Jake Morrison looked out at the stars from the bridge of his ship Stellar Dawn. The deep space around them was quiet and peaceful. His crew had just finished checking 3 planets in the Kepler sector for signs of life. They found nothing but rocks and gas. Now they were heading home to Earth after 2 months in space. "Captain, we should reach Earth in 6 days," said Lisa Rodriguez from her navigation station. She was young but smart, and had been with Jake for 3 years. "The new engines are working perfectly." Jake nodded and walked over to check the main display. Earth was a small blue dot on the screen, still far away but getting closer. He missed his wife Maria and his daughter Sophie. They lived in London, and he had promised to be back for Sophie's birthday. She would be 8 years old in 2 weeks. "Ben, how are the ship systems?" Jake asked his chief engineer. Ben Carter was a big man with gray hair who knew everything about keeping ships running. He had worked in space for 20 years. "Everything looks good, Captain," Ben replied. "The new quantum drive is amazing. We could probably reach Earth in 4 days if we pushed it." Kate Phillips looked up from her science station. She was the ship's expert on alien life forms, though they had not found any real aliens yet. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings from the long-range sensors. Something big is moving near the outer planets." Jake walked over to her station. "How big?" "Really big. Like the size of a small moon. And there are more of them, maybe 10 or 20 objects moving together." Kate's voice sounded worried. Lisa checked her navigation computer. "Captain, those objects just appeared out of nowhere. 1 second the space was empty, and the next second they were there." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In 300 years of space travel, humans had never met any alien species. They had found old ruins on some planets, but no living aliens. If these were alien ships, this would change everything. "Send a message to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have unknown objects near the solar system. Large objects, possibly ships." Before Lisa could send the message, every screen on the bridge turned bright white. A voice spoke in perfect English, but it sounded cold and mechanical. "Humans of Earth, we are the Valkanis Empire. You have violated the ancient laws of this galaxy. You have spread beyond your allowed boundaries. You have 72 hours to surrender your species completely, or we will destroy every human in existence." The screens showed a picture of Pluto, the small planet at the edge of the solar system. Suddenly, a beam of bright energy hit Pluto. The planet simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next moment there was nothing but empty space and tiny pieces of rock. "As you can see, resistance is pointless." The voice continued. "We have destroyed civilizations for millions of years. You are nothing to us. Surrender now or share the fate of Pluto." The screens went black. Jake and his crew stared at them in shock. No one spoke for a long moment. "Did they just destroy an entire planet?" Ben whispered. "Send that message to Earth now," Jake said, his voice shaking. "Emergency priority. Tell them aliens have attacked the solar system and given us 3 days to surrender." Lisa's hands moved quickly over her controls. "Message sent, Captain. They should receive it in about an hour." Jake sat down in his captain's chair. His mind was racing. Humans had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was the worst possible news. These aliens, the Valkanis, had technology far beyond anything humans could build. They had made a planet disappear with one shot. "Kate, what do you know about the name Valkanis?" Jake asked. "Nothing, Captain. I've never heard of them before. But if they can destroy planets so easily, they must be incredibly advanced." On Earth, Admiral Marcus Stone was eating dinner with his family when the emergency message arrived. He was the commander of Earth's combined fleet, which included every military ship humans had built. He read the message 3 times before he believed it. He called President Maria Santos immediately. She was in a meeting with the Earth Council, the group of leaders from all the human colonies. "Madam President, we have a situation," Stone said. "We are under attack by an alien species called the Valkanis. They have destroyed Pluto and given us 72 hours to surrender." The meeting room went completely silent. President Santos, a strong woman who had led Earth for 5 years, felt her heart stop for a moment. "Are you certain about this, Admiral?" she asked. "Yes, Madam President. Captain Morrison's ship witnessed the attack. Pluto is gone. We've confirmed it with our telescopes." President Santos looked around the room at the other leaders. They all looked scared. "How many ships do we have that could fight?" "About 800 ships in the entire fleet," Stone replied. "But if these aliens can destroy planets, our weapons probably won't hurt them at all." Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's top expert on ancient alien ruins, stood up. She was a small woman with dark hair and bright eyes. "President Santos, I need to tell you something important. I've been studying alien ruins on Mars for 10 years. Last month I found something strange." "What did you find?" Santos asked. "Records that suggest humans are not originally from Earth. The ruins show that we came from somewhere else a long time ago, maybe 12,000 years ago. And the beings who built those ruins, they called themselves Terrans." The room was quiet again. "What does this mean?" Santos asked. "I think it means the Valkanis have fought humans before, and I think they won that war. We might be the descendants of the survivors." Admiral Stone shook his head. "If that's true, then they came back to finish the job." President Santos stood up. "We need to learn everything we can about these Terrans and their war with the Valkanis. Dr. Vasquez, take a team to Mars immediately. Find out what happened in that ancient war. Maybe we can learn how to fight them." "And if we can't fight them?" asked General Ryan Cooper, Earth's top military planner. Santos looked out the window at the city lights of New Geneva. Millions of people were living their normal lives, not knowing that their entire species might end in 3 days. "Then we'll have to decide if surrender is better than extinction," she said quietly. Dr. Elena Vasquez landed on Mars with her team just 18 hours after the alien ultimatum. The red planet looked the same as always, but everything felt different now. The ruins she had been studying for years might hold the key to saving humanity. Her team included Alex Turner, a young engineer who was good at fixing ancient machines, and Dr. Sam Wallace, a physicist who understood energy and quantum mechanics. They took a fast shuttle down to the ruins near the old Olympus base. "The main Terran facility is 300 meters underground," Elena told her team as they set up their equipment. "We've only explored the upper levels. The deeper sections were sealed with some kind of energy barrier." Alex looked at his tools. "With the emergency power boost from Earth, I might be able to break through those barriers." Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison's ship reached Earth orbit. Admiral Stone ordered him to report immediately to the command center. The huge space station was busy with activity as Earth's military prepared for the worst. "Captain Morrison, tell me exactly what you saw," Stone said as Jake entered the briefing room. The walls were covered with displays showing the alien ships near the outer planets. "The alien ships are massive, Admiral. Each one is bigger than our largest space stations. And they appeared out of nowhere. 1 second empty space, the next second they were there." "How many ships?" "We counted at least 50 large vessels. Probably more that we couldn't see." Stone looked at the tactical displays. Earth's entire fleet was 800 ships, but they were all much smaller than the alien vessels. "Captain, I'm assigning you to work with Dr. Vasquez on Mars. We need to understand what we're facing." General Ryan Cooper joined the briefing. He was a tall man with gray hair who had planned Earth's defenses for 15 years. "Admiral, our weapons tests are not encouraging. We fired our most powerful missiles at asteroids to test them. Even our best weapons would barely scratch something the size of those alien ships." "What about nuclear weapons?" Stone asked. "We have 300 nuclear missiles. But if they can destroy planets with one shot, they probably have shields that can stop anything we can throw at them." On Mars, Elena's team had reached the sealed doors of the deep Terran facility. Alex connected his equipment to the ancient energy systems. "The power readings are incredible," he said. "These systems are still active after 12,000 years. Can you open the doors?" Elena asked. "I think so. But it's going to take some time." Dr. Wallace was studying energy readings from his scanner. "Elena, these power signatures are unlike anything we've ever seen." "The technology here is far beyond our current capabilities." After 6 hours of work, Alex finally broke through the energy barriers. The doors opened with a deep rumbling sound. Inside was a vast chamber filled with machines that glowed with soft blue light. "It's beautiful," Elena whispered as they walked into the chamber. The walls were covered with symbols that looked like the writing they had found in other Terran ruins. "Captain Morrison is here," Alex announced as Jake arrived with his crew. Lisa Rodriguez and Ben Carter looked around the ancient chamber with amazement. "Dr. Vasquez, have you found anything useful?" Jake asked. "We're just starting to understand the systems here," Elena replied. "But Jake, look at this." She led him to a large display that showed a map of the galaxy. "These are all the worlds where the Terrans had colonies," she explained. "And these red marks show the worlds that the Valkanis destroyed during their war." Jake counted the red marks. There were thousands of them. "How many people died?" "According to these records, about 50 billion Terrans were killed in the war. It lasted for 3 years. Ben Carter was examining some of the machines. These power systems are amazing. They're using some kind of quantum energy that I don't understand. Dr. Wallace joined Ben at the machines. It's called a quantum resonance engine. The Terrans learned how to manipulate matter at the smallest level. They could change the basic structure of atoms. What did they use it for? Jake asked. Everything, Elena said, reading from another display. They could create new materials, power their ships, even terraform planets. But there's something else here. Something they called the Doomsday Protocol. The room went quiet. What is that? Jake asked. I'm not sure yet. The files are heavily encrypted, but the few words I can read mention something about complete molecular dissolution. Lisa was looking at a different display. Captain, there's a message here. It looks like the last transmission from the Terran command. Elena activated the message system. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a Terran leader who looked exactly like a human. His face was tired and sad. This is Commander David Chen of the Terran Defense Force. Today is the last day of our civilization. The Valkanis have destroyed our homeworld and 90% of our colonies. Our fleets are gone. Our people are dying. The hologram paused and looked directly at them. We have one weapon left that could destroy the Valkanis completely. The quantum resonance engine can be modified to target specific quantum signatures. We could erase every Valkanis from existence. Everyone in the room stared at the hologram. But we cannot use it. The Terran commander continued. To destroy an entire species, even one that is destroying us, would make us no better than them. We choose to die with honor rather than live with genocide on our souls. The hologram flickered. We are sending our last ships to a distant world where some of our people might survive. Maybe someday they will find a better way to deal with the Valkanis. This is our final message. Remember us not for how we died, but for how we chose to die. The hologram disappeared. The chamber was completely silent. Jake felt sick to his stomach. They chose to die rather than commit genocide. And now we face the same choice, Elena said quietly. Dr. Wallace was studying the quantum engine. If we could understand how this works, we might be able to build the same weapon they refuse to use. Could we really destroy an entire species? Ben asked. The question is, should we? Jake replied. Elena accessed more files on the Terran computers. There are technical specifications here. Complete instructions for modifying the quantum engine. They kept the information even though they wouldn't use it. Why would they do that? Lisa asked. Maybe they hoped future generations would be wiser, Elena said. Or maybe they knew that someday someone would face the same choice and might make a different decision. Jake's communication device beeped. It was Admiral Stone calling from Earth. Captain Morrison, what's your status? Admiral, we've found something important. The Terrans had a weapon that could destroy the Valkanis completely, but they chose not to use it. Can we build this weapon? Jake looked around at his team. Everyone was watching him. Maybe, but Admiral, using it would mean genocide, killing every single Valkanis in the galaxy. There was a long pause. Captain, we have 36 hours left before their deadline. If this weapon is our only chance to survive, we need to consider it. Admiral, the Terrans chose death over genocide. The Terrans are extinct, Captain. Sometimes survival requires making impossible choices. President Maria Santos stood in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath Geneva. The room was full of screens showing the countdown to the Valkanis' deadline. 24 hours and 37 minutes remained. Dr. Vasquez, explain this weapon to me again, Santos said over the video link to Mars. Elena's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. Madam President, the quantum resonance engine can identify the unique quantum signature of any species. Once it locks onto that signature, it can unravel the basic particles that make up every member of that species. In simple terms, Doctor, it erases them from existence. Not just kills them, but makes them stop existing entirely, as if they were never born. General Cooper spoke up. How many Valkanis would die? All of them, Elena replied. Every single Valkanis in the galaxy. The effect works instantly across any distance. Admiral Stone looked at the tactical displays. Our scouts report that more Valkanis ships are arriving every hour. We now count over 200 vessels in the outer system. What are our other options? Santos asked. Cooper shook his head. None that work. We could surrender and hope they let some humans live as slaves. Or we could fight and watch them destroy every human world in a few hours. And if we use this weapon, Then we win, Stone said. But we become a species that commits genocide. Santos looked around the room at her advisors. These were good people who had spent their lives protecting humanity. Now they faced a choice that would define what humanity really was. On Mars, Jake Morrison was working with Dr. Wallace to understand the quantum engine. The ancient Terran machine was incredibly complex, but Wallace was a genius with energy systems. The engine needs a human mind to guide it, Wallace explained. The quantum field is too complex for computers. It requires consciousness to navigate the patterns. What does that mean? Jake asked. Someone has to connect their mind directly to the engine. They become part of the quantum field and can target specific signatures. Is it dangerous? Wallace looked uncomfortable. The Terran records say that the operator experiences every death simultaneously. They feel each life ending as the quantum field collapses. Jake felt cold. They feel 12 trillion beings die at once? According to the records, yes. The Terran who was chosen to operate the weapon refused at the last moment. He said he could feel the consciousness of every Valkanis in the galaxy and couldn't bring himself to end so many lives. Alex Turner was studying the engine controls. Captain, I can get this machine working, but someone will have to make the choice to activate it. Back on Earth, the Valkani sent another message. Every screen on the planet showed the same image, a massive crystalline ship floating near Jupiter. Humans, you have 1 day remaining. We see that you are preparing some kind of resistance. This is foolish. Watch and understand your situation. The ship fired a single beam at Jupiter's moon Europa. The moon, which was almost as large as Earth's moon, simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your defenses cannot stop us. Surrender now and some of you may live as servants. Continue to resist and we will destroy every human world slowly so you can watch your species die. The transmission ended. President Santos felt her hands shaking. The Valkanis weren't just threatening to kill humans. They were threatening to make them watch each other die. Madam President, Admiral Stone said, I recommend we authorize the quantum weapon. General Cooper, what's your opinion? Cooper was quiet for a moment. Madam President, I've spent my whole life following rules of war. But there are no rules when facing extinction. The Valkanis won't show mercy. They've made that clear. Santos activated the link to Mars. Dr. Vasquez, how long would it take to prepare the weapon?
6 hours to modify the engine.
Another 2 hours to charge the quantum field. And someone has to operate it personally? Yes, Madam President. They have to connect their consciousness to the quantum field. Jake stepped into view of the camera. I'll do it. Captain Morrison, you don't understand what you're volunteering for, Elena said. I understand perfectly. Someone has to make this choice. I have experience with difficult decisions, and I've already lost everything that matters to me. Santos looked confused. Captain, what do you mean? Jake's voice was steady but sad. My wife and daughter were visiting the Jupiter research station when the Valkanis destroyed Europa. They're gone. The command center was silent. Santos felt tears in her eyes. Captain, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, Madam President. Just let me make sure their deaths mean something. Dr. Wallace spoke up. Captain, according to the Terran records, the operator might not survive the experience. The quantum field connection could destroy your mind. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Santos looked around the room one more time. If we do this, we become something different. We become a species that chose genocide over extinction. With respect, Madam President, Jake said, we're already different. We're the species that survived when the Terrans didn't. Maybe that's what it takes. Cooper nodded. The Valkanis made this choice for us when they decided to exterminate humanity. We're not choosing genocide. We're choosing survival. Stone activated his command codes. I recommend we proceed with Operation Final Protocol. Santos took a deep breath. In her 5 years as president, she had made many difficult decisions. But none like this. Authorization granted. Dr. Vasquez, begin preparations immediately. Elena nodded grimly. Understood, Madam President. As the team on Mars began working on the quantum engine, Santos received reports from around the solar system. The Valkanis fleet was positioning itself near every human world. Earth, Mars, the asteroid colonies, the outer planet research stations. They were preparing for systematic destruction. General Cooper approached her. Madam President, we should evacuate as many people as possible to deep space. If the quantum weapon fails, at least some humans might escape. How many could we save? Maybe 10 million out of 40 billion. Santos shook her head. Not enough. We succeed with the weapon, or we all die together. On Mars, Jake watched as Alex and Wallace modified the quantum engine. The ancient Terran machine began to glow brighter as new power flowed through it. The quantum field is building, Wallace reported. We'll be ready in 5 hours. Elena was studying the final records from the Terran archives. Jake, there's something else you should know. The weapon doesn't just target the Valkani ships. It targets every Valkanis everywhere. Their homeworlds, their colonies, their children. Everyone. Jake nodded. I know. 12 trillion sentient beings, Jake. That's not just an army. That's an entire civilization. They chose to be our enemies. They chose to exterminate us. Sometimes choices have consequences. Ben Carter, who had been quiet during the preparations, finally spoke. Captain, what if we're wrong? What if there's another way? Jake looked at his old friend. Ben, they destroyed Pluto and Europa just to show us how helpless we are. They're not interested in negotiation or compromise. They want us dead. But 12 trillion people, Jake, versus 40 billion humans. The math is simple. As the quantum engine reached full power, Jake prepared for the most difficult decision any human had ever made. In 3 hours, he would either save humanity or damn his soul forever. Maybe both. Jake Morrison stood before the quantum engine as the countdown reached 0. The ancient Terran machine hummed with power that made the air itself seem to vibrate. Dr. Wallace had connected neural interface cables to his head, and he could feel the quantum field calling to his mind. All systems are ready, Captain, Wallace said. Once you connect, you'll be able to see the quantum signatures of every Valkanis in the galaxy. Elena stood nearby with tears in her eyes. Jake, are you absolutely certain about this? As certain as I can be, Jake replied. The Valkani's deadline expires in 1 hour. If we don't act now, every human dies. On Earth, President Santos watched through the video link. Captain Morrison, you have full authorization to proceed. Jake placed his hands on the quantum interface. Immediately, his consciousness expanded beyond his body. He could see and feel the entire galaxy as a web of interconnected energy. Every living being appeared as a unique pattern of light, and there they were. 12 trillion Valkanis scattered across thousands of worlds. Their quantum signatures were like crystalline structures, beautiful and complex. Jake could see their ships near human worlds, but he could also see their families, their children, their entire civilization. I can see them all, Jake whispered. Every single one. Through the quantum field, he could sense their thoughts and emotions. The Valkanis in the ships felt proud and confident. They believed they were cleansing the galaxy of an inferior species. But the Valkanis on their homeworlds felt different. Many were afraid of the war. Some questioned whether humans really deserved extinction. Jake saw Valkanis children playing in crystal gardens. He saw artists creating beautiful sculptures of light. He saw scientists studying the stars with wonder. They were not all warriors. Most were just ordinary people living their lives. Jake, what's happening? Elena asked. Your brain patterns are off the charts. They're not all evil, Jake said. Most of them don't even know about the war. Their leaders decided to destroy us, but the people are just living their lives. Dr. Wallace checked his instruments. Captain, the quantum field is at maximum power. If you're going to activate the weapon, it has to be now. Jake felt the weight of 12 trillion lives in his mind. Every Valkanis he could see would die if he activated the protocol. Not just the warriors, but everyone. Babies, children, artists, scientists, philosophers. An entire civilization would simply stop existing. Then he remembered his daughter, Sophie. She had been so excited about her 8th birthday. She had made him promise to bring her a present from space. Now she was gone, killed by these same Valkanis who didn't care about human children. He remembered his wife, Maria. She had been working on a cure for a childhood disease when the Valkanis destroyed Europa. Her research could have saved thousands of human children. Now it was lost forever. Jake thought about all the humans who had died already, billions of people with hopes and dreams just like the Valkanis. But the Valkanis had chosen to start this war. They had chosen genocide first. With tears streaming down his face, Jake activated the Doomsday Protocol. The effect was instantaneous. Across the galaxy, every Valkani simply ceased to exist. Their quantum signatures unraveled and disappeared. Jake felt each death like a physical blow to his mind. 12 trillion consciousnesses ending in the same moment. The Valkani's ships near Earth became empty hulks floating in space. On their homeworlds, Cities stood vacant with no sign that anyone had ever lived there. It was as if an entire species had been edited out of reality. Jake collapsed as the quantum connection severed. Elena and Ben rushed to help him as he convulsed on the floor. His mind had experienced the death of 12 trillion beings simultaneously. "Jake, can you hear me?" Elena asked. "They're all gone," Jake whispered. "Every single one. I felt them all die." On Earth, Admiral Stone watched as the alien fleet went silent. "Madam President, the Valkani's ships are no longer responding to any communications. They appear to be completely empty." President Santos felt a mixture of relief and horror. "Confirmed." The weapon worked. General Cooper was studying the tactical displays. "All Valkani's ships throughout the solar system have gone silent. Whatever Captain Morrison did, it worked. But Santos couldn't feel victorious. General, we just committed genocide on a scale never seen before. 12 trillion beings are dead because of our choice. Madam President, with respect, 12 trillion beings are dead because they chose to exterminate humanity. We didn't start this war." News of the Valkani's disappearance spread throughout the galaxy within days. Species that had been enslaved by the Valkani's empire for thousands of years suddenly found themselves free. The Zenthari Republic sent ships to investigate the empty Valkani's worlds. The Krillian hive mind retreated to their core systems in terror. Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez, promoted after the crisis, led humanity's first contact mission to the liberated worlds. Everywhere they went, the reaction was the same: amazement, gratitude, and fear. "The humans destroyed the Valkani's," whispered the Zenthari Chancellor. "An entire species that ruled for millions of years, gone in an instant." The Akrani Trade Federation offered immediate alliance with humanity. "Any species that can make the Valkani's disappear must be incredibly powerful," their leader said. "We want to be their friends, not their enemies." But not everyone was grateful. The hegemony of Keth had served as Valkani's client states for centuries. Their entire economy depended on the empire. "The humans have destroyed the natural order," their high commander declared. "Someone must take the Valkani's place as rulers of the galaxy." Lisa transmitted their threats back to Earth. "Admiral Stone, the Keth are mobilizing their fleets. They seem to think they can replace the Valkani's as galactic rulers." Stone's response was simple: "Send them historical data about what happened to the last species that threatened humanity." The Keth fleets turned around immediately. Jake Morrison recovered from his neural trauma after 3 weeks, but he was never the same. He retired from space service and moved to a quiet colony world where he spent his days in a garden, trying to find peace. Reporters from across the galaxy wanted to interview the man who had erased an entire species. Jake refused all requests. He lived alone with his memories and his guilt. Dr. Elena Vasquez published her research on the Terran ruins, but she kept the technical details of the quantum weapon classified. "Humanity used this knowledge once out of necessity," she wrote. "We must never need to use it again." The quantum engine on Mars was dismantled and its components scattered across different star systems. No single world would ever again have the power to erase a species from existence. President Santos established the Memorial to the Lost, a monument on Earth dedicated to all who had died in the Valkani's War. It honored human victims, but it also remembered the 12 trillion Valkani's who had perished. "We did what we had to do," Santos said at the dedication ceremony, "but we must never forget the cost. We must never become comfortable with the power we used. We must be better than our enemies were." Yet across the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity had faced extinction and responded with a weapon so terrible that no species could imagine resisting it. The young race from the edge of the galaxy had become the most feared civilization in known space, and they had done it not through conquest or cruelty, but through the simple willingness to pay any price to survive. 50 years had passed since the day Jake Morrison erased the Valkani's from existence. The galaxy had changed completely. Where once the crystalline empire had ruled with absolute power, now hundreds of free species governed themselves in loose alliances and trade agreements. Humanity had become the galaxy's unofficial peacekeepers, not through conquest but through reputation. When conflicts arose between species, a simple message from Earth was usually enough to end the fighting. Everyone remembered what had happened to the last species that had threatened humans. Jake Morrison, now 78 years old, lived in a small house on the peaceful world of Haven. He had spent decades tending his garden and trying to find peace with what he had done. The nightmares had finally stopped coming every night. though they never went away completely. A young Xanthari student named Kral approached his house one morning. The Xanthari were tall, blue-skinned people with large eyes who had been among the first species to make contact with humanity after the Valkanis disappeared. "Mr. Morrison, sir, my name is Kral Venth. I'm writing my doctoral thesis on the Great Erasure. Would you be willing to speak with me?" Jake looked up from his tomato plants. Most people who came to see him were reporters or curiosity seekers. But this young alien seemed different. His manner was respectful, almost reverent. "I don't usually talk about what happened," Jake said. "I understand, sir, but my thesis is about the moral implications of species-level warfare. Your decision changed how the entire galaxy thinks about conflict resolution." Jake set down his gardening tools and studied the young Xanthari. "What do you want to know? Do you regret what you did?" Jake had been asked this question 1,000 times by reporters, politicians, and philosophers. His answer had never changed. "I regret that the choice had to be made. I regret every single life that ended, but I don't regret making it. Can you explain that distinction?" Jake sat down on his porch and gestured for Kral to join him. "Young one, the Valkanis gave humanity a choice: surrender completely or face extinction. They demonstrated their seriousness by destroying worlds. They were not interested in negotiation or compromise. But surely there could have been another way. Could there?" Jake asked. "The Valkanis had technology millions of years beyond ours. They could destroy planets with single shots. Our best weapons couldn't even scratch their ships. What other way was there?" Kral took notes on his electronic tablet. "Some philosophers argue that humanity should have chosen extinction rather than genocide." Jake's eyes flashed with old anger. "Those philosophers are fools. They speak from the safety of worlds that exist only because of the choice I made. It's easy to be moral when someone else pays the price. But 12 trillion beings died, sir, and 40 billion humans lived. The Valkanis made the choice to start a war of extermination. I simply finished it." Kral was quiet for a moment. "Sir, records show that many Valkanis were not involved in the decision to attack humanity. Children, artists, scientists, they died for choices their leaders made." Jake felt the familiar weight of guilt settle on his shoulders. "Yes, they did. And every day for 50 years I have remembered their faces. I saw them all through the quantum field. I felt each life end. How do you live with that knowledge? By remembering why it was necessary. By honoring the dead through how I choose to live, and by making sure it never happens again." Across the galaxy, humanity's reputation continued to grow. The Drakmari Empire, a warlike species from the galactic core, had begun expanding aggressively into neutral space. They had conquered 6 worlds and enslaved 3 species. President Chen Wei, Santos's successor, called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 200 species gathered on the neutral world of Conquered Station. "The Drakmari expansion must stop," Chen announced. "They are committing the same crimes that the Valkanis committed. Genocide and slavery have no place in our galaxy." The Drakmari ambassador, a huge reptilian creature with scarred hide, laughed at the human president. "Your species is young and weak. We have conquered worlds while you were still living in caves. You cannot stop the natural order of the strong ruling the weak." Chen's response was calm and measured. "Ambassador, I suggest you study your history. Specifically, research what happened to the last species that threatened human worlds." The Drakmari ambassador's laughter died. Everyone in the chamber knew the story. Within 6 hours, the Drakmari fleets had withdrawn from all conquered worlds and released their slaves. General Cooper, now in his 80s but still sharp, spoke to the graduating class at Earth's military academy. "You serve a species that has proven itself capable of terrible things when necessary. Your job is to make sure those terrible things are never necessary again." The young officers listened intently as Cooper continued. "Power without restraint is tyranny, but restraint without power is helplessness. We must be strong enough to protect the innocent and wise enough to know when protection becomes oppression." Dr. Elena Vasquez, now the director of the Institute for Galactic Studies, published her final paper on the Valkanis' War. "Humanity learned something important about itself in those dark days," she wrote. "We learned that survival is not just about living through danger. It's about preserving what makes life worth living." The paper became required reading in schools throughout human space. Children learned about the terrible choice their ancestors had made and why it was necessary. Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez, who had spent decades building trust between humanity and other species, retired to write her memoirs. "The galaxy fears us," she wrote. "But fear based on respect is different from fear based on cruelty. We are feared because we do what we must, not because we enjoy doing it." On Haven, Jake finished his conversation with the young Xanthari student. As Krall prepared to leave, he asked one final question. "Sir, if you faced the same choice today, would you make the same decision?" Jake looked out at his garden where flowers from dozens of worlds grew together in harmony. "I hope I never have to find out. But if the choice was between human extinction and alien genocide, I would make the same choice every time. Even knowing the cost? Especially knowing the cost. That's what it means to be human. We do what's necessary even when it breaks our hearts." Krall left Haven with a new understanding of humanity. His thesis would become one of the most important works on interspecies ethics ever written. It was titled "The Burden of Survival: How Humanity's Greatest Victory Became Its Greatest Responsibility." The galaxy had learned that humanity possessed the ultimate weapon, the willingness to use ultimate weapons. Other species had developed terrible technologies over the millennia, but they had always held back from using them completely. Only humans had proven willing to cross that final line. But the galaxy had also learned that humans use their power responsibly. They didn't conquer or enslave. They protected and guided. They had become the guardians of galactic peace not because they wanted power, but because they were the only ones willing to pay the price that power demanded. The Terran memorial on Earth contained two inscriptions. The first honored the human victims of the Valkani's War. The second was more controversial but equally important. "To the 12 trillion Valkanis who died for their leaders' choices. May their death serve as a reminder that actions have consequences across the universe." Some people protested the memorial to their former enemies, but President Chen had insisted. "We honor them not because they were right, but because forgetting the cost of our victory would make us monsters." Jake Morrison died peacefully in his garden on a spring morning 10 years later. His last words were reported by the nurse who cared for him. "Tell them I'm sorry it had to be me, but tell them I'm not sorry I did it." His funeral was attended by representatives from every species in the galaxy. Even former enemies came to pay their respects to the man who had changed the universe. The galaxy learned that day that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their courage or their adaptability. It was their willingness to bear any burden and pay any price to protect what they loved. The last species that had challenged humanity was indeed erased from existence. But in the end, humanity's true victory was not in destroying their enemies. It was in becoming worthy of the power they had been forced to use.